Hello, we're back. We have a new talk coming up inspired by children's books, which I love.
Oh, yeah. And we should try to pronounce his name correctly. Fiach. Was that right? Oh, yeah. He comes
It's
from
an Irish
Ireland.
name.
And please welcome on stage here, Fiach Dillon from One-on-One Communications, Telecommunication. It's your stage.
Thank you.
One last reminder before we leave, ask your questions on the app, and that includes you guys at home if you're watching. Download the app, ask your questions, so we have something to talk about later. Thank you.
That's the title. And yeah, I'll introduce myself. Oop. Hello. I seem to have technical issues. The controller is not reacting. Thanks. There we go. Okay. Hello, Naiscon. Fiach Dillon. I'm a senior software engineer at One-on-One Telecommunications. I've always loved storytelling, especially as a father to 3 wonderful kids. One of our favorite pastimes is to read stories together, and one series that we really like is Mr. Men and Little Misses. The stories are short, engaging, and always carry a meaningful message. The story today will be Mr. Messy, a book I can definitely say is a good one, and a good value to teach the kids. Hopefully this presentation will capture a little bit of that spirit, so let's begin. A good story, like good code, always finds its structure. So, signs of a mess, it was always there. Mr. Messy lived in a particularly messy-looking house. The paint was peeling just like his PHP code, full of syntax errors and no linting to catch them. The windows were broken like his Fusion templates, unpredictable and nearly impossible to debug. There were tiles missing from the roof, much like his node-type inconsistencies in his project, where some pages loaded and others failed completely at random. The flower beds were overrun with weeds, like his garden gate of his hinges, a perfect metaphor for the lack of testing, where every fix introduced more bugs than it solved. And had Mr. Messy cut the grass lately? He had not. The breaking point, everything falls apart. Mr. Messy rolled out of his messy bed, yawned, scratched, shuffled into the chaos of his usual routine. He brushed his teeth, leaving the cap of the toothpaste, just like he'd been leaving syntax errors all over his PHP code. At breakfast, he poured himself a bowl of cereal, cornflakes flew everywhere, much like his Fusion templates. Scattered unpredictable errors with every render. Heading out the door, he tripped over a broom he left lying in the yard 2 weeks ago. That broom, technical debt, ignored waiting to strike at the worst possible moment. But Mr. Messy wasn't just stumbling through his morning, it was launch day. Discovery, a glimpse of what's possible. Mr. Messy went for a stroll and found the neatest, prettiest looking little cottage that he had ever seen. It had a lovely stream running right through the middle, a smooth CI/CD pipeline perhaps. There was a man in the yard clipping the hedge with precision. As Mr. Messi approached, he said, "Good morning, I'm Mr. Messi." The man looked him up and down and replied, "I can see that, I'm Mr. Tidy." Another man appeared out of the house holding the clipboard and a linting report. "I'm Mr. Neat." "Tidy and neat," said Mr. Tidy. "Neat and tidy," said Mr. Neat. Together, they were everything Mr. Messi wasn't: order, clarity, and care. The offer, resistance to change. "We're in business together," explained Mr. Tidy, "and the person who owns this house has asked us to do some work." "What sort of work?" asked Mr. Messi. "Oh, we make things nice and neat," said Mr. Neat, flicking a speck of dust off his PHP stand manual. "Tidy things up," added Mr. Tidy, holding a folder labeled CI/CD Pipelines Jenkins. "Perhaps we could come along and do some work for you," Mr. Neat offered, eyeing Mr. Messi, who looked even more unstructured and tested than usual that morning. "But I don't want things nice and neat," muttered Mr. Messi, looking downright miserable just at the thought of it. The very idea of linting fusions, YAML schema validation, unit tests, and automated pipelines made him twitch. "Intervention, time to clean up." "Nonsense," said Mr. Tidy, putting on his Jenkins gloves. "Fiddlesticks," said Mr. Neat, tucking the PHP unit test report into his tool belt. "But," Mr. Messi tried to argue. "Come along," said Mr. Neat, pulling out a USB stick labeled Playwright End-to-End Tests. "Off we go," said Mr. Tidy, opening the doors to the code clean van humming with Fusion Trace dashboards. But, Mr. Messi stammered. "But nothing," said Mr. Neat. Before Mr. Messi could even write another untested function, they bundled him into the van and they were off, heading straight to the project on the other side of the wood. First impression, code review panic. "Good heavens," said Mr. Neat when he arrived. "Good gracious me," added Mr. Tidy. "This is the messiest code base I've seen in all my born days," they both said at the same time. There were inline scripts tangled like weeds, Fusion templates with zero linting, and YAML files yelling in syntax agony. "Better do something about it," said Mr. Neat, already unpacking the Neos code styles formatter. Before Mr. Messi could even open his mouth, they were rushing here and there, running PHP stand validation schemas, snapshotting layouts, and setting up the first Jenkins jobs he had ever seen. Refactoring begins. Mr. Neat gets to work. Mr. Neat hoed through outdated YAML configs, mowed down wild overgrown Fusion structures, and pruned unnecessary HTML wrappers. He clipped duplicated PHP functions and forgotten old class names. He cleaned performance bottlenecks using Fusion tracing and Neos debug, and dug deep into the rendering layouts with snapshot tests. He set up a functional and unit test with PHP unit and fixtures and handed the clean code to a pipeline over to Jenkins with a satisfied smile. By the time he was done, the Yard Air front end looked better than ever. Clean, fast, and stable. Back-end overhaul. Mr. Tidy gets to work. Mr. Tidy cleaned up the controller, scrubbed away the years of tangled logic. He rubbed through every config file, aligning them with the YAML schema validation. He primed and mended broken endpoints and added type safety checks with PHP stan and enforced Neos code styles for clarity. Then he painted the code base with clean commons, refactored classes, and beautiful structured modules. The foundation, the API, the data flow, looked more consistent and maintainable than it had ever been before. Mr. Messi peeked out and blinked. He barely recognized his own backend. full stack cleanup inside the code base. Then they both stepped into the house. "Good heavens," said Mr. Neat for the second time that morning. "Good gracious me," echoed Mr. Tidy, also for the second time. Without another word, they set about cleaning the house from top to bottom. They brushed through templates using Fusion linting. They swept away duplicated and unreachable code. They polished the UI with snapshot validation and Playwright end-to-end tests. They scrubbed business logic and PHP unit test, and even optimized performance with Fusion tracing and wired it all together with in a neat, reliable CI/CD pipeline with Jenkins. By the time they were done, the inside of Mr. Messy's house, his code base, looked neater, faster, and more maintainable than it had ever looked before. The transformation is done. "There we are," said Mr. Tidy, wiping Jenkins' dust from his gloves. "All finished," said Mr. Neat, closing the laptop with the last successful test glowing green. "Tidy and neat," smiled Mr. Tidy, gesturing at the polished code base. "Neat and tidy," nodded Mr. Neat, admiring the structured, fast loading site. The garden was green, the house was pristine, and the code base clean, fast, and predictable. The code was linted and formatted. Tests were all passing, unit, functional, and end-to-end. The CI/CD pipeline was running smoothly. Performance metrics were clean and optimized. Pages loaded in milliseconds. Mr. Messy looked around at the stable site and readable code and clean structure, and for once in his messy life, just didn't know what to say. Intermission from story to structure. Mr. Messy's transformation is underway, but what did Neat and Tidy actually use to clean things up? Let's step backstage and look at the engineering magic. The linters, the testers, tracers, and automation. PHP linting and static code analysis, what it does. Analyzes PHP code for type issues, undefined methods, unreachable code. Prevents silent runtime failures, sloppy untyped legacy code. Why is it good? Catches bugs early, makes your PHP code safe, testable, and easier to refactor. Here's an example where we set the level of PHP stand to its lowest, so we don't have so many. Undefined property name will be found by PHP stan at this level, and correct property name will be set to display name instead of full name. No return types, so type safety will become also very important for the renovator, which was mentioned in the previous talks. Fusion linting, what it does. Enforces Fusion best practices, prevents inconsistent Fusion files, presentational components being misused or non-reusable. Why is it good? Cleaner templates, fewer rendering surprises, better collaboration on front ends. Here's an example of a rule we follow. So in our code-based presentational components should not access the node and should always be reusable. Here we see a button file being parsed, and there's an error because the presentational prototype is of type Neos content collection, but has to be inherited from Neos Fusion component to make it fully reusable and doesn't access the node. And we see here then the prototype itself. Then YAML linting, Shaman's core. What it does, validates your node types and setting configs, prevents invalid child node names, broken help messages, rendering bugs. Why is it good? In short, structure and predictability, making editor UI work as intended. Child nodes like this one, he'll say nope. And the help message here, which is valid YAML, but in Neos this won't render, so he catches this also. Very helpful. HTML Fusion snapshot testing. What it does, captures output templates to detect unexpected changes, prevents UI drift, layout silently breaking. Why is it good? Makes Fusion rendering predictable, confidence in visual stability. There's a really cool tool which we use, Shuffle Snapshot. Here's a definition. For those of you who know Monocle, should be familiar. We can set a snapshot, send the props through, and also send a variant with target blank as prop set, and beneath we see the snapshot which will be generated for both cases. Unit tests in PHP. Test logic in isolation, prevents logic bugs, breaking core functionality without knowing. Why is it good? Fast feedback, easier to refactor safely. Here's a job offer API, which we then send them arguments to a job offer, and we want to check that the input values are the same as the expected values. Down here, we do the laser. A search then, and a simple unit test is always good. Functional tests, PHP and Fusion. What it does, tests how backend logic affects page rendering, prevents pages from failing silently, bad rendering after content creation. Why is it good? Confidence that content flows correctly, catches schema versus output matches. Here's an example. Up here, we do a little bit of setup with our root fusion, the node structure as our fixture, and the notepad context here, our site. And now we create a section headline minimal. The section headline minimal node, we create it with properties. We set the node types, the node name, his properties, give him his parent path. And here we render the node with a simulating renderer of his current node path and the section headline minimal node. And down here, we can check what we set up here, which are values then in the node type itself. And we assert if the string contains my headline, my subline, and my preline, which is really helpful. End-to-end tests. Why? What it does. Simulates real user flow, logs into a CMS, creates content, and verifies if it's live, prevents critical workflows from breaking after deployment, UI consistencies across browsers and environments. Why is it good? Catches regression before your users do. Tests full flow, login, content, publish, front end. Validates things unit and function tests can't reach. Here's an example. So we set our scenario, and then we call our CMS, and fill out this end-to-end test, publish blog article, which then proceeds to log into the CMS, go to the blog section, create a new blog, fill in the blog detail articles, publish it, and then call the blog website with the new article to ensure it's there. Performance, fusion tracing, and debugging. What it does, visualizes rendering paths and bottlenecks, prevents slow pages due to hidden fusion complexity, rendering loops, or expensive queries. Why is it good? Optimizes what actually matters, improves the user and editor experience. Some pictures, finally. Here's the tracing tool. It gives you a visualization of a flame graph of the rendering process of your page node. We call it prototype in this phase. And here we can identify with some really good looking where the bottlenecks are, where the rendering is, in the horizontal and vertical scale are here to consider. A really cool tool. I can definitely say it has helped. The debug tool, this got a revamp. This is pretty cool. We also see the rendering time, inspect the elements then on the page, and we also see here the number of queries and which are slow, and of course here cache, hits, misses, uncached, all that wonderful caching stuff. A really nifty tool, helps with performance. CI/CD automation. Could be a talk on its own. There is also a great talk here at the NASCON a few years back. It was fantastic by Christopher Hubeck, I think. What it does, automate test and deployment pipelines, prevents manual errors, unreviewed code going online. Why is it good? Reliable builds, quality delivery, test, linting, deploy with confidence. So here's a setup file for Jenkins. We have our stages, and each stage will refer to what we want. PHP linting, Fusion linting, YAML linting, static checks are all a go. Snapshot tests, our unit tests, then our functional tests, and our end-to-end tests run. Then we do some performance checking, and then we deploy or fail fast. That's pretty nifty. Again, another image for the people who don't like text. Again, we see our pipeline here. We have the static checks here all, and then he runs through the steps of unit, functional, end-to-end, performance, and then the deploy or fail fast. So, future tools or ideas. The journey continues, right? It can keep going. Fusion Static Code Analyzer. Oh, I wish I had one of these. Advanced tooling for scanning and analyzing Fusion templates to identify potential problems before they hit production. Be a use case. Prototype analysis for Fusion, exploring prototypes being used across the project to detect dead code or unused components, and for clarity. No? This would be also a really cool tool. Performance and profile and performance insights. Generating detailed performance reports, highlighting the slowest pages or the slowest components to prioritize optimizing with precision. Then a query sandbox for the content repository. We're still in 8. We'll call it something else next year, hopefully. Running advanced queries like QNode, parent, filter, or even something more complicated, which takes quite some time, similar to a Jira JQL, this query language, for real-time metrics to see how fast or how slow this is, and to get a structural analysis where it's being slow on the selection. Then Sheriff for Naos. For those of you who don't know Sheriff, it's a dependency checker between modules, which is used in mono repos for the JavaScript world. It's a really cool tool. It's checks that interdependent modules don't inherit from one another. And because we have many, many, many packages, and also custom packages, the dependencies are, of course, very difficult to keep track of, and yeah, would be a cool tool. So, the story continues. I hope we haven't forgot Mr. Messy. Mr. Messy has come a long way, but the job wasn't done yet. There's still things to clean up, polish, and one more transformation to complete. The final bug, Mr. Messy himself. Mr. Messy just didn't know what to say. The project was clean, the sites were fast, the logs were quiet. Then Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy turned and looked at him. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Mr. Neat asked, adjusting his Fusion linter. Precisely, replied Mr. Tidy, glancing at his PHP rule set. They both turned to Mr. Messy. What we're both thinking, they said together, is that you look much too messy to live in a neat and tidy code base like this. Mr. Messy's eyes widened. But, he said, clutching his old habits, what about my quick fixes? Or my random commits? Or my late night hot patches? The developer refactor, Mr. Messy gets cleaned. But whatever Mr. Messy said was no use. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy whisked him off to the bathroom upstairs, once the messiest room in the house, now spotless thanks to clean configs and automated tests. Then Mr. Neat grabbed one arm holding a manual deploy script, and Mr. Tidy grabbed the other, clutching a sack of unchecked to-dos, and dropped them straight into the bath. When in went the linters, out came the unit tests, and followed by a good scrub of CI/CD best practices. Mr. Messy wasn't used to having baths or writing clean, testable code. Transformation complete. A new Mr. Messy. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy washed and brushed and cleaned and scrubbed and combed and linted until Mr. Messy didn't look messy at all. In fact, he looked the opposite of Mr. Messy. The code was cleared, the commits were clean, the tests were green. He stared at himself in the mirror, eyes wide. "Do you know what I'm going to have to do now?" he said in a rather fierce voice. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy froze. Have they pushed him too far? Was he about to revert to main without review? Oh dear. A new name and a new way of work. "What are you going to have to do now?" they asked Mr. Messy. "I'm going to have to change my name," said Mr. Messy. And then he chuckled. And then Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy chuckled. And then Mr. Messy laughed. And then Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy laughed. And they all laughed and became best of friends. And that's really the end of the story, except to say that if you're a messy sort of person, you might get a visit from two people, Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy, who will help you clean up your code and your workflows. Running on nails. So just a quick overview of what we're using by one-on-one. So we have our customer portals, and here's the list. The main website, where you can find the coolest one-on-one products. The DSL portal, where you can get all your internet sorted in a snap. Mobile portal, where your on-the-go communication is always covered. The customer login, where you can find you. Company info, where you can discover what makes us tick. Careers, where you can find your next adventure with us. And the partner program, the Profi Seller, where you can join our partner fun. Thank you from me. It was a pleasure having your time and attention, and I hope this story motivated you to, not be Mr. Messy. I was Mr. Messy sometimes, maybe. So I'm going to take this message: stay neat, stay tidy, and ship clean code.
Thank you so much. I'm flying solo now, so I have a fewer hands than normal.
No problem.
I would like to present you with this NEOS N DIY kit that you guys can buy too.
Oh, wow.
Have fun with the kids, maybe.
Yeah, cool. I don't know. Quite young.
Apparently, I heard it's super easy to build. And
Difficulty level 1 star.
See?
I'm already nervous.
And your honey, while
wow.
I pull out my phone for all of the questions.
Oh, wow.
While I'm pulling up the questions, I'm unsure whether I would like the two of them to come and visit me, because they sound as menacing as Duo from the Duolingo app. Almost afraid. But also, maybe I could use a little
Maybe a bit more
unmessification.
Mr. Messy or Mr. Men stories. Great.
Adrian asks, should all tools... Oh, by the way, thank you for adding your name to the question. Well done. Well done following the rules. Should all tools be used to improve code, or only some of them?
From experience and also from personal, I would recommend using it where it makes the most sense, right? Like as Robert said, it depends, but I would definitely try to use all of them and then discover where it makes sense. Was my approach. I said, okay, I know this tool exists, I'll use it, I'll put it into our development cycle and see the feedback loop, right? So, and then I noticed in a lot of instances, we made the CI/CD pipeline even slower then, because he's checking all the stuff, doing all that and whatnot, and then you're just waiting for this to finish. Then I suppose I would try to use as much as you can in the development cycle, on the integrational test cycle, so when it goes to the CD, maybe only just limit it down to what's actually really needed, and then, scale it to your preferences.
But there's, like, the questions just keep coming in.
Oh, wow, okay.
Johannes asks, thank you, Johannes, what benefit would you see in continuous profiling for PHP and NEOS in terms of code quality and performance?
A great question. On the slide, I think I remember when I wrote it, I was thinking, like, what would have helped me really, like, find what would be slow. And in such a large NEOS ecosystem which we have in our shop, like, over 4,000 pages with I don't know how many components, and to have like precision in these cases would be fantastic. And I hope that like the tracer is really cool. Also, this debugging tool, these are great tools which have helped. And to go for future preferences, it would be kind of cool to have this, maybe, more tools like that would be really nice.
Jesus Christ. More questions.
Oh God.
I should stop refreshing. What does the Fusion linter? How does the Fusion linter know if a prototype is presentational?
Great question. So,
No name.
no, well, it doesn't matter. Unknown humanoid. So how does it know? This tool which we use, which I can say is this Neos code styler, is from the Neos community. So kudos. And we use it to write our own rules. So you can write your own rules. Takes a little bit of practice. I won't lie, right? You're dealing with tokens. And you can write your own rules to say, hey, we want to follow this. And the example I gave where we said, hey, we want to have only presentational components, have this, and we can write then the rule to check what is for us a presentation component, and we have only in our presentational components, or should have only, no node query, right? Because if we do this, we might cause errors, and we write the rules accustomed that we can then fill them out. But it's a really cool tool, I can really say. Have a look at it.
Right, the flow of questions has died down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
When is a project big enough where testing becomes necessary? Asks someone anonymously.
Your first bug. I think maybe you shouldn't over-engineer it, right? So if it's something that you can rely on with just your simple standard practices with unit, functional, and the standard test portfolio, what Neos brings with it, with the flow packages and all the best practices which the community practice, I think this can be completely fine. And if you want to go the extra mile because you have a business need for it, then I'd say that gives you more the push to do it rather than saying, okay, we've reached critical mass and now we need to start thinking about what we can do about it.
Do you know who gave the talk on the Neos best practices in 2019?
I still have great
nightmares.
Talker here.
I still have nightmares. Does Mr. Tidy actually possess a formatter for Fusion files that fixes, for instance, indentation, or does the linter actually include that?
Again, the first part of the question?
Does Mr. Tidy?
Does Mr. Tidy. The Fusion file indentation.
We could follow up to the question asker if they hadn't remained anonymous.
Okay. Could you make it? Well, you don't need to. You can say anonymous. So I'm going to try and answer it, and if not, just approach me afterwards. So indentation. There. Okay.
Well, basically, what the question says, do you have a format for Fusion files, like pretty, for example?
No. But
rather than telling you.
Rather, sorry. No. Fantastic. Then no, we don't. This is kind of like. We define it in the editor config in the ideas and hope that nobody is using Notepad++. If you do, hey, all to your own, right? Vim for the win.
All right, down to two very important questions.
Mm-hmm.
Have you submitted your application to Roger Hargreaves for an internship or a children's book / IT education spinoff yet?
Oh, wow. Would love to. I'd have to go to his son, Adam, because I think Roger left us a few years back.
R.I.P.
But, and the books are, of course, fantastic.
But his son is holding up the...
I would consider it. On my bucket list is to write a children's book. I haven't decided on like what, but...
And I think this question rounds off your talk really nicely. What's Mr. Messi's new name?
I'm going to leave that enclosed. Your own name, because we were all Mr. Messi at one point, right? So that would be kind of what I'd give.
You guys heard it. The lessons we learned were in our hearts all along.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Someone to tell you. So fantastic.
Well done.
So, good luck.
All right. Before I allow you guys to leave this room, I don't have a clicker. Can somebody do the clicky thing for me? Super duper awesome. Thank you. I promised I would be super annoying about this, so here I am being super duper annoying. We will be taking a group drone photo in about an hour-ish, somewhere. My slide says to do, wo. Someone didn't update those notes. How messy. So we'll figure that out. Just look out for me. I will probably be screaming at people to get to the place that has yet to be. Maybe somebody knows. Maybe nobody knows. Group drone photo, important, 1:30. Be there. And then, next slide, please. Thank you. I get to release you into the wild, lunch. If the sauna isn't hot enough for you, try the patio. It's a hellscape. And while you are lunching, mingling, talking, having fun, try to like ruminate in the back of your mind, what's the next big thing for NEOS, and pin it on our board. That's another thing that I'm going to be super duper annoying about. All right, enjoy lunch. And vote, 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 vote. Jetzt hilfst du mir sogar schon auf der Stage. Ich bin noch an. Ich bin noch an.